you think about the Buddhist objection as if God were responsible for minimizing suffering, or as if like the cosmic forces were responsible for minimizing pain and suffering. But it strikes me that God isn't motivated by minimizing pain and suffering, because if he were, he wouldn't have created. There you go, 0. I mean, divide by 0, undefined number. Yeah. Nevertheless, you got none, at least in the aggregate. But God created, so at least he exposed creation and himself to some modicum of pain and suffering, but on account of what? Maybe we could talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's the goal of, we assume, well, it puts it this way, it's very likely that we will project on our own kind of immediate initial intuitions and think that they're correct on things, as we generally do. This is how we just function, is quickly assume that our best guess immediately is the right thing and gets us on the right track. I think it's tricky in this case because we will project onto animals in the created world things that aren't true because we don't have any information about them. Yeah. That's not to say, now people say, atheists might say, oh, you're just kind of, you can't understand God, huh? So whatever. Therefore, you can say, who knows? But you got to give some reasonability to, rationality to why it's okay to beg off on a particular answer to everything. And in that way, like animal suffering is a matter of one. We don't know all of the reasons why God lets anything happen, particularly, but the category of animal suffering, this kind of, it's so much and so absurd and so great, and like he creates whole animals in this way. Well, remember, he creates in particular ways. I mean, if we take the process of evolution, the way things develop accordingly, then it starts to look like certain paths have to be developed in certain ways if they want this end goal. Now, maybe there's other paths, but it starts to look a lot more like the natural route of if you want water from the sky, then you're going to have clouds and rain. If you want green grass and blah, 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 you're going to start to have plate tectonics, this kind of thing. Right? You start to move it towards the hypothetical if you actually get more scientific about it. Now, why does God, he has all sorts of options, but why does he do that? One also is that he's concerned about us, first and foremost, as far as I can tell. Now, this is also very difficult for people to hear, I think. And for me, I love animals. But animals are not equal to us. I think people think immediately that they have like rights and that they're suffering some number of animal suffering. It's not as much as human suffering. For like a suffering baby, horrible. Suffering puppy, not nearly as good. But you can start to ramp up, like, what about 1,000 puppies? Like 10,000. You just keep on trucking this thing. And at some point, someone's like, well, and then what if the baby has these diseases and things? And if you ever get someone saying, if you find someone's intuition of like, it's a lot of dogs and one kind of not that this person is not that worth it, you say, you have not made the right distinction about like what is of ultimate value. And you ought to, as Catholics, we ought to say, at the end of the day, this may seem strange, but we really are a joint in nature, and that our pain and suffering matters qualitatively in a different way than anything in the natural world, because we're not entirely natural in that way.
Yeah, so I think maybe just to summarize those two key insights, there's matter and there's hierarchy. So it seems like whenever you introduce material creation into the equation, that one thing is probably going to build itself up by the diminution of another. It seems like if you're going to digest, you have to eat, and if you're going to eat, you're going to eat something, and if you're going to eat something, that something is going to be, with respect to its own integrity, compromised.
Yep.
So it seems like matter means that there's going to be this kind of give and take, as it were, push and pull.
Zero-sum game.
All right? So then, on the other hand, we've got hierarchy, the fact that not all things register in the same way or with the same importance, and that ordinarily we'd say the lower is for the higher. Right, so the rocks are for the plants are for the animals are for the man. And that these things, and here we're getting into a theology of creation, are for us. Not like we're industrialists who are just laying hold to all resources, but we're stewards, right? We're meant to conduct these things unto a certain fullness in us because we are made to the image and likeness of God. We're capable of an intelligent life, and we can order these things in light of an end which we alone can interiorize and understand and effectuate freely. Father Jacob Bertrand, would you say that you're optimistic about this subscription appeal?
No.
Would you say that you're optimistic about anything?
No.
Well, I am. Folks, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. Cheers.